Welcome to the 10-Minute Treasurer. My name is Jeff Pospisil, and in this video we are going to look at United Methodist apportionments. So this is going to be a very Dakotas UMC specific type of video, but it should be helpful for any United Methodist and anybody curious about United Methodist. You might not know what apportionments are if you're not United Methodist, but basically some people would describe them as like the United Methodist taxes or dues that we place on our churches. So churches that are part of the denomination, they have to pay apportionments into the denomination. I like to think about them, and I kind of hope they'll be like this, is that they'll be almost like a tithe. So this is the part that the church gives of their income for the work of God through the denomination. So that's my hope, and that's what at least us in the Dakotas UMC we're trying to live up to or live into. Here is a screenshot of a typical church statement for the Dakotas UMC, and this is a church that's served by a full-time pastor. And on there's this Fund 1, apportionment 16%. So in the Dakotas, our churches give 16% of their operating income, so their general fund income, towards apportionments. And so there's no billing amount. You can see that here. I kind of do know about roughly where they need to be giving at based on historical data, but they're calculating it and they are remitting it usually monthly after the end of the month. And so in 2022, by the way, that 16% is going to 15%. And then 14%, and then 13%, hopefully all the way to 10%. Because like I said, I really want this to be like a tithe for the churches, that they are just giving a percentage of their income for the work of God through the denomination. All right, I'm going to go to our website and show you the information we have about apportionments. So under finance, I should make this a little bigger. So it's dakotasumc.org, finance and benefits, apportionments and billings. And when you go there's this video that Rebecca Travs, and it's a really good one. What good comes from apportionments anyway? So connectional giving for a connectional church. Really good video, worth watching. There's these links then to make a payment, church statements, or remittances. And I'm going to cover each one of these. So just hang on and we'll go ahead and cover each one of them. But first is remittance resources. And there's an example about what is and is not operating income. That's a really good one. And I'm going to dive into that a little bit more and where that comes from. And also that video there. Hopefully this video I'm currently making will replace that one that was on the screen capture. So for where the operating income number comes from, you need to go to statistics. So finance and benefits statistics, and under statistical forms, there is this table 3 church income. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom this sucker right in. And really what I look at is that 52, line 52. And this is all the money that goes to support the church's general fund or the operating budget or whatever you want to call it. So that is what I actually use to define what it is, and that's what keeps me consistent. The biggest one is what comes through the offering plate. Sometimes you get some interest and dividends. Very rarely you sell an asset that goes towards the general fund. The other one that's used more often is this building use fees. And one of the things that we get for guidance is if your building use fees are mainly to cover the cost of custodial cleanup, you don't have to report it. And then the last one here is amounts received through fundraisers. And we tell churches to report the net amount. So for example, if you have a turkey supper and it costs $1,000 for the supplies or the food, and you make $10,000, you would report $9,000 as the income from that. And same kind of thing too is if let's say you run a church daycare and the church profits go towards the operating budget, that you would then just put the profits there, just the net amount and not the gross amount for your income. Let's go ahead and walk through a remittance form. So a remittance form is what churches in the Dakotas UMC use to pay not only their apportionments, but also their direct bills for pension and health any special offerings, all that kind of good stuff. But you would use this primarily if you're going to cut a check. So you would print this off, a completed form off with your check, and that would let us know how we need to split up your check. If you do this online, we won't be able to see your calculation, and that's fine. We trust our Dakotas UMC churches, but it's the same process, and this form could help maybe in how you actually calculate it. So let's just look at the remittance form real quick. I just plugged in any name. I opened this up in Adobe Reader, by the way, and Jeff's UMC. And by the way, for the year in remittance, that's really only important around January and December, when there might be some question marks about what year it applies to. So just to keep that in mind. But here's how you actually calculate your apportionment then. So we look at the tithes, gifts, and offering, that unrestricted piece, and I plug that in for the month or whatever period you're remitting it for. So 9,200 in this case. I know some churches do quarterly, most of them do monthly remittances, but I'll just plug that in. $50 in interest and dividends, $0 for sale of church assets, $0 for building use, and maybe $750 for net fundraisers. And that gives us to a nice even $10,000. So I'm going to bring that over to the other side, $10,000, and I would multiply 15% by $10,000, and that gives me 1,500. And so there is this other piece. So we have some of our churches that are united parishes. So maybe they're half Presbyterian and half United Methodist. And so whatever that split is, maybe they're 70% United Methodist and 30% Presbyterian, whatever. Plug that. So I'd plug in 50% if that's the case, and that would move their apportionment to half of that $1,500. So hopefully that makes sense. The other part of the remittance form, that is pension direct bills, salary withholdings, health flex direct bills, all that stuff. And then if you have any special offerings, you could fill that here. Just the description. If you have the fund number, that's great. And let me show you where to find your church statement, by the way. I'm going to zoom that in. Go on church statements and click on church statement again. It's going to get you to the directory of your church. So you can search for your church. It's probably the best way to do it, but I'm just going to choose Aberdeen North Highland. And there's the picture of the church. And if you click this red button, that's right underneath the picture of the church and all the contact information, that'll bring up the statement for the church. And so then you can see the current statement for the church. We update these once a month, usually during the first week of the month with all the prior month information. So, yeah. And it'll show, even for the Dakotas UMC, it'll also show, you can see at the bottom here, this foundation information as well. And last, I'm going to show you how to make a payment if you're going to pay online or any other way. So again, we're at Apportionments and Billings, and let's go to Make a Payment. And there's also that red button on the side there too. I think that's in all the finance areas. So one thing you can do is, here's how to write a check, and there's the link to the remittance form as well. There's apps if you use apps. I don't. I have a flip phone, so yeah, this guy is not going to be sending any apportionments in. But there's this little widget here, and you can use that. It doesn't have all the options, so most people won't use this widget, but there's that option for the 16% apportionment, the direct bills, and then the most common funds. And so if I wanted to just pay apportionments, that $1,500, I could include that. And then if I had a pension direct bill, include that. And health flex deposit, I can include that. And that all works well and good. And then I would just click next, or I could have signed in too. That way it remembers all your bank information too. There's a sign in over there as well. But let's just go as a guest and see. Then here's all the information that you'd have to fill in. We prefer that you use a checking or savings account. I don't even know if it'll let you use a credit card or a debit card actually. What I prefer people do is they click that login here that was right above that. This is kind of the old form, and let me go ahead and zoom back in, because this gives you all those same as on the remittance form. And by the way, log in, that's a secure login that lets you save your bank information, your contact information, makes everything a lot easier. But this looks much more similar to your remittance form, so you can fill it in just like that. And anyway, I do think it's a lot easier. So let's just plug something in here. $250 for tornado relief. Again, you don't have to know the fund number. Joanne and Leanna, they're excellent about it. And then we would go to the payment information. And again, if you were logged in, it would remember all this payment information, all your banking information. So you wouldn't have to always enter that in every time. So I think it's a pretty slick system. I like paying online for most of my things. One of the things I also want to lift up is this has been our motto, basically, faithfully serving our churches in the name of Jesus Christ. And that's what we hope to do as the Dakotas Conference Finance Office. Lastly, what I want to talk about is where does this money go? So if you send in your 15% of your operating income, what does it actually pay for? And so this is for 2022, but it'll be roughly the same going forward for at least the near future. So in the Dakotas, 11 cents of every dollar goes towards our Developing Missional Leaders program. So this doesn't include staffing, but this is our recruiting and training pastors. This is our youth programs, and even training up youth leaders. This is camping, that kind of deal. That's where this goes towards. There is also then 5 cents of every dollar goes towards equipping missional congregations. This one, so a number of years back, our churches and individuals contributed towards Thrive, which funds a lot of our new church projects, but we also still ask for a part from our churches to fund new churches, so launching new churches and overseeing those new churches, as well as our revitalization program, so helping churches that maybe have gotten, I don't know how to say this, but maybe dry or stagnant or in a rut. These types of programs are to help them get through that season. Then 30 cents of every dollar goes towards extending missional impact. So this is, and a good chunk of this, roughly 27 or 26% of this goes towards our denominational dues. So this goes to the larger church, so outside the Dakotas. So it helps pay for the bishop, some United Methodist seminaries, United Methodist missionaries that function throughout the world, other things like that. Some of it's just a denominational overhead, the better thing. And then there's that smaller chunk, that 3 to 4% pays for our Dakotas United Methodist missionaries. So that's Spirit Lake, that's the Solar Oven Partners. Those are our own missionaries that we pay for. There's a smaller chunk that's generating missional resources, and this is actually my office for us to operate. Again, it doesn't include staffing. This also includes some insurance, directors and officers insurance, and workers' comp, I believe, might be in there. I believe it is. And those are the main things that are there. The next one is support services. So this is mostly staff. There's also our property that are connected to the conference, including payroll taxes, or not payroll, property taxes on our camps. But a lot of this is salaries for our support for our staff, and also some of the other stuff too that's infrastructure related, like our communication system, our annual conference, our archives. Our archives are at the McGovern Center, and that's what helps pay for that as well. And then the last chunk is our cabinet. So this does include their salary as well, plus like the moving bills and their office and travel expenses, introductions for new pastors. So that's what funds their work, is roughly 18 cents of every dollar. Hopefully this has given you some kind of idea of where your money goes. I'll include a link to our budget, or maybe our budget video, which is online as well, if you want maybe a little deeper explanation. Again, this is a video that is a ministry of the Finance Office of the Dakotas Conference, as well as the Dakotas United Methodist Foundation. You know, if you thought this was helpful, I encourage you to share it, to like, subscribe. Comments are always welcome as well. God bless you.